Hello, Year 10. It's Mrs. Nath here, and today I am going to run through with you this week's work, which is on alleles. Okay, and we will be learning about what an allele is. We're going to look at the differences between dominant and recessive alleles, and we're going to look at how can we show what a potential offspring would look like from two individuals for a certain characteristic by doing a genetic cross using a Punnett square. Okay, so here, when you go through the PowerPoint, you can have a go at doing this matching exercise. I'm going to leave that for a moment. Okay, so genes and alleles. So an allele is a type of gene. So a gene is a section of a chromosome that codes for a characteristic. It actually codes for a protein, which will give you that characteristic. An allele is that type of gene. Okay, so that could be your gene would be for eye color, and your allele would it be a blue-eyed allele or a brown-eyed allele? Now, some alleles are dominant. This means that only one has to be present to express that characteristic. And we use the word express, which means to show that characteristic. So, for example, brown eyes. So you inherit one allele from your mum and one from your dad. And you would only need to inherit one brown-eyed allele from either parent, and your characteristic would be brown eyes. Okay, some alleles are recessive, and this means that both have to be present to express the characteristic. For example, blue eyes. It means that you would need to inherit from your mum a blue-eyed allele and from your dad a blue-eyed allele for you to have blue eyes. If you have a brown-eyed allele there, then that becomes the dominant. Okay, so what we can do is we can use this knowledge to work out what characteristics offspring might have. So the genotype is the two alleles that are present. Okay, so we can represent these using letters, and we always represent a characteristic using the same letter. But we represent the dominant allele with a capital letter and the blue-eyed allele with a small letter. So in this case, if we use an example today that I'm going to talk you through is eye colour. So brown eyes we would represent using a capital B, and blue eyes we would represent using a small b. So the phenotype is the characteristic that is expressed. What does it look like? What is shown? So if we had a big B and a little b, the phenotype would be brown eyes. Okay, so let's look at different genotypes and think about the phenotype and introduce a couple more new keywords. And we will go over these keywords again with you, and we will go over this again with you. Okay, so big B, big B. Now we can think about what phenotype would be expressed. So we would look at the example. Now I'm using eye colour, but remember in a question, it could be fur colour of mice. It could be height of a pea plant, whether it be tall or short. It will always tell you, though, what is the dominant characteristic or allele and what is the recessive characteristic or allele. So big B in our example would cause brown eyes. And we would then call this genotype, the homozygous dominant. And that's because homozygous meaning the alleles are the same, okay? And dominant because they're the two of the same dominant allele, causing brown eyes. Okay, so then we have small b. So this is blue eyes, okay? But this time we call this genotype homozygous recessive. Okay, then the final genotype is big B, little b. Now think carefully, what phenotype would that be? Okay, yeah, that would be brown eyes because we only need one dominant allele present for that to be expressed in the phenotype. So this person would have brown eyes, and we would call this genotype heterozygous because it's two different alleles, hetero meaning different. Okay, so now we have to draw a Punnett square. So with this example we've got here says your mum's got brown eyes and your dad has blue eyes. What potential offspring could there be? So in this case, we've got a brown allele and a blue allele using our same letters. So the mum has got brown eyes. I've just noticed this typo on your, I do apologise. Okay, so the brown allele has got big B, homozygous dominant, and the dad would have to be homozygous recessive, little b, because they have blue eyes, so they can't have any dominant alleles. So then we would draw a square like this, and you can just draw this out in your books with your pen. And you would need to label which was the mum or the female, which was the male, okay, or the dad. So, and then what we would do is only one allele can go into the gametes, the sperm or the egg cells, because here, like, as you've seen in meiosis, egg and sperm cells have half the number of chromosomes, so they'll only have one allele. So the mum can be big B, and the dad could be little b, little b. What we would do then is we would look and we would go down the column and across the row and put them in pairs. So here we've got big B, little b, big B, little b, big B, little b, big B, little b. So in this example, we can see that there is only one eye colour phenotype the child can express. It's the heterozygous, so it will be the dominant allele, 100% brown. Okay, let's look at a second example. So this time the mum has got brown eyes and the dad has got blue eyes. So the same phenotypes, but this time the genotype is different. The mum is heterozygous, okay? So she's got big B, little b. And again, the dad having blue eyes can only have the homozygous recessive form, little b, little b. Again, we put that into our Punnett square. So big B, little b this time, and little b, little b. And then again, we pair them up down the row and across the column. So here we have big B, little b, but this time we have little b here. Big B, little b again, and then little b, little b. And this gives us two types of genotype, which would lead us to two types of phenotype. So here we can either show it as a percentage or a ratio. You would need to check what the question was asking you. And we would have 50% brown, and we would need to indicate on our Punnett square which genotype gave us brown. So I could draw an arrow here and say big B, little b would give me brown, and 50% blue, given by little b, little b. If we were to express that as a ratio, it would obviously be 2 to 2, but you want to simplify the ratio as you do in maths. So we would say 1 to 1, brown and blue. Okay, final example. So your mum's got brown eyes and your dad has got brown eyes. What phenotypes could your offspring have? Now, some of you may be looking ahead, and here we can actually show that two brown-eyed parents can actually produce a blue-eyed child. That if both of the parents are heterozygous. So here we've got the mum, the female, big B, little b, the dad, big B, little b, both with the phenotype brown eyes. So again, we put our gametes, our sperm and egg alleles into the Punnett square, and then we match them. So here we've got big B, brown eyes with our homozygous dominant, big B, little b, and big B, little b are heterozygous, but again, expressing brown eyes in the phenotype. And then here you can see that actually the two recessive alleles could come together and we could get the homozygous recessive genotype, little b, little b. So if we were to show that as a percentage and a ratio, we would have 75% brown, and you would need to label on your diagram twice, because here our homozygous dominant would give us our browning, be expressed as brown in the phenotype, and our heterozygous genotype would be brown. And then we would need to indicate our blue eyes, which is our only that one homozygous recessive, little b, little b. So here we can see it would be 75% brown, 25% blue, or we always have a 3 to 1 ratio, brown to blue. Okay, so when you look at the PowerPoint, there are a few questions after this, and also there is a worksheet for you to work through now.